Angela Fernandez. I'm a law professor. I teach at the University of Toronto, and I'm cross-appointed in the Department of History. And my interests are law, legal history, and animals in the law. Well, I worked for a long time on a book about a fox hunting case from early 19th century New York. And it led me to think about the topic of animals and legal history and how they're treated. And the fox in my case was being treated as a plaything by the judges and lawyers. So it got me interested in looking at that question of that debate. The most critical questions, I think it's about the role of history and what it is supposed to be doing for us. I think for a long time, many historians sort of sidelined political questions, and so something like animals and animal rights would have been like, don't touch it. And so for me, that's a very important question, how to sort of be in a new generation of historians and legal historians who are not afraid to shy away from political questions that are like the questions of our time, and do that in a way that is still going to be within the discipline. Brian Simpson is a legal historian who coined the term legal archaeology, which describes the type of work that I did in my fox hunting book on Pearson and Post. And it really has to do with digging around, the facts and circumstances, the lawyers, the litigants, the location, and that has been very influential on me. But I would say that Simpson doesn't really let in political questions. So I kind of feel like I'm doing something in the Simpson sort of canon in a sense, but doing it a little bit differently and a bit more open to things. But he's definitely an influence. The other person I would say would be Bob Gordon, who talks about the importance of the legal mandarins in any particular cultural legal system. So sort of like the high boffins, the judges, the treatise writers, the sort of the movers and shakers. And trying to approach them, not reverentially, but approach them and see, well, what did they say? Because those were influential ideas, and kind of work with them. So I use the term mandarization a lot in the book, actually, and that's directly from Bob. I would say the idea of law's inherent conservatism is something that's really sticking with me. And I would say that even goes sort of even more so for legal history, because it's also tends to be very conservative, and not to kind of underestimate that tilt and that weight. And I think I came into the weekend very much almost sanguine about issues like transparency and knowledge will then give you certain kind of progressive results. But I think the big thing that's really sticking with me is to not underestimate the weight of the different forces and structures that are going to be counterbalancing that. And I feel that the things that I've heard from other participants have really kind of brought that home to me in a very sharp way. One of the presumptions I walked in with was sort of trying to think about merging an animal interest with an environmental interest, given the urgency of issues raised by the Anthropocene and the death of nature. And I was really feeling like, yeah, this is just we just go with this, it's obvious, and why wouldn't we? And of course we would. And that's the sort of lawyer, pragmatic part. But again, I think it's another lesson I've been taking in over the last 48 hours about, kind of caution in terms of jumping on that quickly or without thought. I'm not saying I wouldn't want to do it, but just to be a bit more careful with it. I think one of the really important ones has to do with scale and this sort of systemic versus individual kind of theme we've been talking about a lot, because I think especially when you're doing historical stuff the way that I do it, I think I will tend to lean a little bit toward the micro and the individual and even like the super local in particular, but not think as much about the structures. But just, to be cognizant of that and to be thinking, okay, but what are the structural implications of even the most micro things that you're talking about, right? That need to be attended to. And then there's also this kind of theme about hopefulness or hopelessness or, kind of despair and optimism that I'm really thinking about in terms of lots of the discussions that we've had, and whether there might be something that I at least personally tend to do, which is kind of think small scale in order to be more hopeful. But again, that connects to the question of are you underestimating? Am I underestimating the weight of the legal conservatism or, the individualistic structure that undermines so much of our legal categories. So that's a big takeaway for me that I think is very important. I would say, to me, animals are kin. And I think that we don't have a right to use them. But given that we are here with them and we share space with them, we have so much to learn about just the world and life from them. And I think that, so it feels a little instrumental, a little easy, but I feel they have many messages to give us and many things to teach us.